Can you imagine working as the personal assistant to one of Israel's most powerful prophets, someone with a direct line to God? Now picture yourself as the prophet's right-hand man, witnessing several miracles firsthand. Many would call this a dream job, but not Gehazi. He was consumed by greed and avarice, and he paid the price. Before we begin, thank you for engaging with this channel. Your comments, feedback, and support matter. If you haven't subscribed yet, do so for more powerful leadership lessons. Welcome to Christian Leadership Insights, the channel where faith meets leadership. Today we dive into one of the most tragic stories in the Bible, the fall of Gehazi, servant to the great prophet Elisha. There are 5 leadership lessons in this story. Watch till the end. This is not just an ancient tale. It's a masterclass in how character flaws can destroy even the most promising careers. Before we delve into the dramatic collapse, let's clarify who Gehazi was. He wasn't just anybody. He was the personal servant and right-hand man to Elisha, one of Israel's most powerful prophets. Think of him as the chief of staff to a spiritual giant. Gehazi witnessed several miracles firsthand. Let's recap some of those miracles. He saw the birth, death, and resurrection of the Shunammite woman's son, Naaman's healing, and the poisonous stew purified, to name just a few. Gehazi was being groomed for greatness. Elisha trusted him, even giving him his staff to raise the dead son of the Shunammite woman, but he was unsuccessful. Here's where our story takes a dark turn. Can you remember what happened after Naaman, the Syrian commander, had been healed of leprosy? Can you recall how Elisha refused any payment for this miraculous healing, a decision that revealed his character and priorities? The prophet understood that God's gifts aren't for sale, a completely different phenomenon from what we witness today, where individuals in some settings have to pay to pray. While Elisha had strict rules and a code of conduct, Gehazi had a completely different agenda. Let me state exactly what happened, starting from 2 Kings chapter 5:20. But Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of God, said, "Look, my master has spared Naaman this Syrian, while not receiving from hands what he brought. But as the Lord lives, I will run after him and take something from him." Notice that phrase, "as the Lord lives." Gehazi was invoking God's name to justify his greed. He's about to lie, steal, and manipulate while claiming divine motivation. Does that sound familiar in some settings today? Gehazi abandoned his duty post and responsibilities and chased after Naaman's convoy. When Naaman saw him, he immediately stopped his chariot, showing respect for Elisha's servant. But Gehazi abused that respect. He told a calculated lie. "My master has sent me, saying, 'Indeed, just now 2 young men of the sons of the prophets have come to me from the mountains of Ephraim. Please give them a talent of silver and 2 changes of garments.'" This isn't a spur-of-the-moment mistake. It was premeditated. Gehazi had invented a fictional scenario, used his position of trust to deceive, and exploited Naaman's generosity. Naaman, being generous, gave him more than he asked for, 2 talents of silver instead of 1. But Gehazi's problems were just beginning. He wasn't only greedy, he was also cheeky. He couldn't carry all the gifts by himself, so Naaman asked 2 of his servants to help him. When they reached the hill, he hid the silver and dismissed the servants. Then comes the moment every leader dreads, facing accountability. Elisha asked him a simple question, "Where did you go, Gehazi?" And Gehazi compounds his sin with another lie, "Your servant did not go anywhere." This is where the story gets intense. Elisha, speaking with prophetic authority, revealed that he knew everything. "Did not my heart go with you when the man turned back from his chariot to meet you? Is it time to receive money and clothing, olive groves and vineyards, sheep and oxen, male and female servants?" Then comes the devastating judgment. "Therefore, the leprosy of Naaman shall cling to you and your descendants forever. The very disease that was healed in Naaman now becomes Gehazi's permanent curse. He leaves Elisha's presence leprous, as white as snow. Now, what can we learn from this tragic story? There are 5 powerful leadership lessons here. Lesson 1. Character matters more than position. Gehazi had access, influence, and opportunity. He was close to power and positioned for greatness. But his character couldn't support his position. The question is, do you use or abuse your position to enrich yourself? Leadership isn't just about what you can do, it's about who you are when no one is watching. As a leader, do you assess and evaluate your character regularly? What about those in your inner circle? Do you know their character, and do you understand what they represent? Lesson 2. Does your leadership team or team members understand your values and what you stand for? Do they know the code of conduct, standards, and expectations? We sometimes find team members doing things that do not align with the values and vision of the team or organization. Lesson 3. Greed corrupts judgment. Notice how Gehazi rationalized his actions. He convinced himself that Elisha was being too generous, that they deserved compensation. Greed doesn't want more. It rewrites our moral code to justify getting it. Lesson 4. Small compromises lead to big falls. Leaders rarely fall overnight. They slip gradually. The signs are usually there. Those little foxes that we ignore. Each small compromise makes the next one easier until we find ourselves in situations we never imagined. Lesson 5. Cover-ups always make things worse. Gehazi's initial sin was greed, but then came deception, manipulation, theft, and lying to his mentor. The cover-up became worse than the original crime. We witness this sort of cover-up in organizations today. The question is, why do leaders and members of their inner circle cover up their actions? The answer lies in self-preservation, power dynamics, and maintaining secrecy. Sometimes it is part of the organization's culture. The consequences of leadership failures are rarely personal. Notice that Gehazi's curse extended to his descendants. Leadership failures don't just affect us, they impact our families, our teams, and our organizations for generations. These lessons aren't just ancient history. We see Gehazi-like failures in modern leadership all the time. The avarice-driven pastor who misuses church funds to live a lavish life at the expense of the congregation, the CEO who inflates earnings reports to attract funding and investment, the politician who takes bribes, the manager who takes credit for their team's work, and the gatekeeper who controls access to information, resources, or opportunities because they focus on personal gain instead of granting access to those in need. Each of these scenarios follows the same pattern. Opportunity plus character weakness equals devastating consequences. So how do we avoid becoming Gehazi? Here are some practical safeguards. Build accountability systems. Surround yourself with people who have permission to ask hard questions. Set out the expected code of conduct. Ensure your team understands the standards and expectations. Regular character audits. Regularly examine your motivations and actions. Are you serving others or serving yourself? Transparency over privacy. The more open you are about your decisions, the harder it becomes to rationalize bad ones. Remember your why. Gehazi lost sight of his purpose. He was supposed to serve God and others, not accumulate wealth. Practice saying no, particularly to opportunities that compromise your values, even if they seem profitable. The story of Gehazi is ultimately a tragedy, not just because of what happened to him, but because of what could have been. He was positioned to inherit one of the most powerful prophetic mantles in biblical history. Instead, he chose immediate gratification over eternal significance. But here's the thing, his story doesn't have to be ours. Every day we face choices that seem small but have massive implications. The question isn't whether we'll face temptation, it's whether we'll have the character to handle it. Gehazi was destined for greatness. His story reminds us that leadership is about stewardship, not an opportunity for personal gain. When we lead with integrity, we create a legacy that outlasts us. When we lead with greed, we destroy not just ourselves, but everyone who depends on us. The choice is ours. Will we be known for our character or our compromise? Let's take a minute to compare the actions of Gehazi and Naaman, the Syrian commander. Naaman, the pagan outside, became a worshipper of the true God. Gehazi, an insider with spiritual knowledge, was cast out in disgrace. Naaman had leprosy, let go of pride and found healing, but Gehazi held on to greed and lost everything. Gehazi had spiritual leprosy. Naaman tried to pay for his healing, but Elisha refused to accept it. Gehazi tried to sell what was meant to be free, cheaping God's grace. Does this sound familiar in some settings? Leaders must never exploit spiritual gifts for personal gain. Another learning moment. God welcomes the humble regardless of background and warns the complacent or corrupt, even if they hold religious roles. Naaman's story is about grace, humility, and transformation. Gehazi's story is about privilege squandered by greed and deceit. Together, they teach us spiritual privilege is a responsibility, not a guarantee. True faith demands integrity, humility, and gratitude. What's one area where you need to strengthen your character as a leader? Do you think there's a bit of Gehazi in us? Drop a comment below and let's discuss it. And if this video challenged you, please like and share it with other leaders who might benefit from Gehazi's story. Remember, leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest about our imperfections and building systems to help us grow. Take care and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.